Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And we are back in Henford-On-Bagley, one of my favorite worlds, if not my favorite world in The Sims 4. I've been giving it a lot of thought recently, and Brindleton Bay is one of my favorites because I am from New England and I know that that world was modeled after New England. However, Henford-On-Bagley, I don't know, this place has my heart. I really do like it. And today we are building a family home. I think I'm going to be calling it an English family home. And it's really because I'm just not very creative with names for builds, you guys. I don't give my builds fun names, and I try to just highlight what it is, what the purpose is. This is a family home, that's the purpose. And it's just kind of in this style that seems to be very present in the UK. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge as well. So actually, is there a certain name for this kind of architecture? I don't know. Is this kind of like Georgian architecture? I do not know, so do not quote me on this, and definitely let me know in the comments down below. But you can see that we built a little conservatory off to the side. I think that's what it would be called. I would call it a sunroom, but that seems to be the appropriate name, a conservatory. And then there's also a little bump out on the other side, and the home itself, it ended up being a lot bigger than I was thinking. And also this lot is kind of huge for what I was planning with this build. And you guys will see that there is going to be a giant backyard to play around with. And I had a few different ideas when I was thinking about it. And I will talk about it here, even though we're working on kind of the exterior and the front. But I had a few ideas, and I actually got to the point where I was looking up how to kind of plan out landscaping in huge spaces, and I went down a rabbit hole. It was really interesting. And I ended up just doing, I don't know, things that I probably wouldn't have normally done, but you guys will actually see it when we get to that point. I am just working on the landscaping here in the front. I wanted to keep it very, very simple, and I really, really like these pale, would you call it kind of a salmon color? I wouldn't say pink. It's kind of like a pale salmon color for these rose bushes. I think they're so pretty, and I used these trees from the debug menu from Get Together. My sweet friend Rachel uses them a lot, and I didn't realize how much I liked them until I started to really take notice of them. So I decided to use them here. I also used a lot of the wisteria because I don't use it very often. And my qualm and why I don't use it is because it does clip onto the interior of builds. I do not believe that has been fixed or tended to in any way since the pack was released. I don't know though. When I built this, it was poking through some of the walls, but it is covered up with a lot of furniture, so you guys won't notice if you download this. And here I am also using these little decorative pieces from Jungle Adventure, sizing them down and just adding a little bit of detail to these windows from Cottage Living because I absolutely love them, but whenever I build here, I pretty much use them. And I wanted to kind of make them look a little bit different, and that is a trick that I have mentioned before that I picked up from Devin Bumpkin. He is amazing. If you guys have not checked him out, I'm sure you have. He's incredible, so you definitely should. I also struggled with how to set up the front of this lot. I feel as though my areas of opportunity, big time, when it comes to builds, are trying to figure out the front landscaping and fencing things in, trying to figure out how to set that up a little bit better or just in different ways so my builds don't look the same. And also backyards. I think it's pretty much the exterior with not even the landscaping portion. I feel comfortable with my landscaping. I don't know if you guys enjoy it for the most part or not, but I like my landscaping. And I don't know, I just feel like I struggle with how to create space in the front of the build or the back of the build. So front and backyards. I'm really going to be trying some different things soon, and hopefully they don't completely tank. But here I am trying to figure out how I'm going to separate all of this space because there was so much. I think this is a 30 by 20. I think it is. It seems like it would be a small lot, but it really isn't when you start to kind of plan out a house and everything. But I do have kind of an entrance to the backyard from the front. That was one thing I did end up keeping, but there's going to be a back patio as well. So you guys will see that when we get out there because we are on to the interior. And this floor plan was a little bit challenging, mainly because of the conservatory off to the side. I wanted it to be very open. I didn't want it to feel very closed off from the rest of the home. And I think I found a way to do that. I think it was also a struggle to figure out if I was going to be able to have like a full dining room or something like that, and how many rooms I could fit up on the second story. I thought one of the rooms on the first floor was going to be a bedroom until I really started to plan things out. And I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did, because the final result was not what I was envisioning when I first started this build. But we ended up using this plain white paneling from, I believe, Base Game. I've used it in the dark brown color before, but the white felt very open and welcoming, and I was really excited to use it. I also used these curtains, I believe, from either Vintage Glamour. Is it Vintage Glamour? I can't remember. I try really hard to remember the packs that certain things are from, but if I don't use items very often, I have no idea. I think they're from Vintage Glamour, but they're really pretty. They have this really nice lacing detail, and I thought that would be really nice in the conservatory, because I was imagining this was going to be, I don't know, maybe a little bit more of a fancy home, but it didn't end up that way. I think the conservatory is as fancy as it ends up looking, because I ended up going for just kind of a mix match of different styles in here. I was trying to use these paranormal stuff pack, that was a mouthful, chairs, but I ended up going for the ones from Cottage Living. I just knew that I wanted there to be a fireplace in here, and at this stage as well, I was also thinking that this was just going to be a conservatory, not the main living space. But it is the main living space, because looking at the layout of the first floor, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get a living room that I like. I wasn't going to be able to set up a room the way that I wanted to because of the amount of archways that I had to put throughout the entire first story to just make things flow. So this is the main living room, which means that I do end up putting a TV above this fireplace here. And there's plenty of places for your Sims to sit together and enjoy a movie or just enjoy the fire. And there's a couple of plants, of course. Of course there are plants, and of course it's this plant from the Blooming Rooms kit. But yeah, the living room is kind of like the fanciest place in the house. There's going to be kind of a bigger hallway area that ends up being an office, but you don't get any privacy in the office because there's no door. I don't know, it's kind of an interesting layout, but I did add a coffee table here with some candles and some books, the remote control, which if you guys haven't noticed, I pretty much always grab from the debug menu. I don't remember who said it to me. I think it was Rachel. I think it was sweet Rachel. She was like, the one thing I noticed that you always do is you pull out that remote control. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but I do. I do it literally every time. And down here is going to be a bathroom. It's a little bit longer than my average bathroom. It's, I think, like a 4x2 or something like that. And it's very plainly decorated. Nothing fancy, but there is a bathtub instead of a shower tub combo or just a shower. It was really the window placement that restricted me a little bit, and since I had to use the bathtub, I did want to add maybe a little bit more detail above it instead of just simply adding a painting. So I did take a few floating shelves and grabbed some decorations that I thought would be calming and inviting and maybe somewhat purposeful with, you know, that little basket of toiletries. I wanted to add just a few decorations here, so I really enjoyed doing that. I use these shelves from Get Together and those candles from Base Game that I never use. I don't know if they actually light up because they weren't in the light section. I think they're purely decorative, which I don't really mind, but I just never use them. And that is pretty much the bathroom. There really isn't too much else that I put in here aside from maybe a few decorations like this bathrobe. Maybe I put a towel. Yep, look at me go. I put a towel next to the sink, and of course sconces save lives, so I add sconces whenever I can't think of anything else to add. And now here is going to be kind of this open office space. I would just say that this is the family computer, and I also add a toy or two for the child that I imagine living in this home. There's a bookcase, and I think there's just going to be like a little end table over in the corner. I was trying to use this dollhouse, but it felt really out of place, and the dollhouses are just so large in The Sims. I do typically size them down at least once or twice, depending on the space that I have available. It just seemed too big for this space though, so I ended up getting rid of it. I take this side table, I add a little clock and a plant. There's another armchair over here, which I think I put a little toy, a stuffed void critter on top of it, because I did want to kind of bring into the fact that there is a child in this house. I've been pulling away from adding a ton of kids clutter in living spaces and kind of adding it in different parts of homes recently. I don't know why I ended up making that shift, but I did. And there's also that tub of toys, which I so wish was a toy box that came with Parenthood. It's purely a decoration, but I think that would have been such a cool opportunity. I bet someone's modded that already, right? I bet it's out there. I bet someone has done that already. And now this is going to be the entrance area, and it is, again, very plainly decorated. I've got like a coat rack, there's some shoe clutter. I think I end up putting a plant here, but I do swap it out for, I think, another little like wall coat rack, the one from base game that has the jacket and the hat hanging from it. I thought that would be kind of nice to change things up. I also created a little bit of a custom plant vase there. I think that vase is from City Living, and I used the Skinny Legend, so I made a new plant out of it, which felt kind of nice. I also used this big grandfather clock, which I thought was really, really nice. I thought it added a lot of character to this build, and I don't get to use it very often, so it was really nice to use it. I typically forget about it. This is going to be the dining room, where I kind of set the color scheme for the dining and the kitchen with my choice of chair. Again, base game. I actually used a fair amount of base game in this build, which is surprising to me. So I used the green chair, and there is a swatch of the Cottage Living countertops that we got that's a similar green. It's not identical, and it also has a very light wood tone for the actual countertop. That's something else. So I used different curtains depending on the room. I didn't use those lacy ones from the conservatory through the entire build. That's a little bit different for me to feel comfortable doing that, because I feel like curtains, the flooring, and the color choices in furniture kind of like tie rooms together and tie a whole build together, at least for me. So kind of making those different decisions felt a little bit uncomfortable, but everything seemed to flow really nicely. But yeah, I used those countertops in the kitchen, which at least tied the kitchen and the dining together in a way that I really, really enjoyed. And they also got a full dining table, which wasn't something I was anticipating being able to have here. I didn't think I was going to have the room, and I was originally thinking that I was going to have the dining table in the actual kitchen, which I surprised myself again, because in the kitchen, you guys will see, I was able to get a smaller dining table in here, not a little 2-seater, but a 4-seater, which was shocking. But I did use these countertops. I love them so much. It's one of my favorite swatches of these. I also tried to just add a few more little details, like these little china cabinets on the end. I used the fridge from Cottage Living because it's one of my favorite fridges that we have in game, which sounds so odd when I say it out loud. Like, wow, I love this fridge. It's my favorite. Kind of odd to me. I don't know. But I do really like the kitchen. It's kind of more of a galley kitchen because I do place that like breakfast table in the center, which works really, really nicely. So they have an informal place to sit and enjoy meals. I also use those little curtains from base game. I thought they fit perfectly with the style and with the color scheme. And I added the aprons because you know those aprons are pretty much going to be in every single build from here on out. When we got that update, I was kind of confused just because they didn't seem like holiday items per se, but they had some swatches that kind of pertained to the holidays. And yet the clutter items themselves were, of course, very versatile. They just mainly belonged in a kitchen. I was just very excited to get kitchen clutter. I don't know why, but kitchens are one of my favorite places to clutter along with kids' rooms. What is your favorite room to clutter up? If you enjoy clutter, I would be very interested to know. But you can see here that we are adding another little custom vase thing. I used the picture from Cottage Living and I put a plant in it because I thought it was really cute. I'm not going to say it was like a missed opportunity because that's just my opinion, but I thought it was an opportunity to actually show that you could do that and it could look really nice, at least in my opinion. But we are pretty much done cluttering things up, and now we are going to be placing that other 4-seater table. Now, I did play test this. Your Sims can use the oven, they can use the sink, everything is accessible, and I was actually shocked because I really thought that one of those chairs would block the stove. But if you do have any of those issues, you could probably replace this table with just a little 2-seater if you wanted to, make it a little bit more of a breakfast table compared to a dining table. That could definitely resolve it. And I only say that because I know that sometimes things might work for me, and for some reason when someone downloads a build, it might not work for them, and I really don't know why that is. It can just be a glitchy game. But this is going to be the mudroom. I'm going to call it a mudroom. It's kind of the entryway to the backyard, and I do put a dresser here. I've been doing that a fair amount as a console table because I feel like it is very useful if your Sim's about to walk out the door. So I added a wardrobe here, a mirror, and then I think I just put a bench, which I've also been doing a lot lately. I got to steer away from that, but I think I put that bench there just because it's a place where your Sims can theoretically sit down, like take their shoes off. I'm going for a level of realism. I don't always achieve it, but just a level of it. And then we end up moving on to the upstairs. And I was so thrilled that I was able to place the stairs where I did because they're so out of the way and I could just plan out the rest of the rooms with them kind of being off in a corner. I also was able to make an open staircase. Now, I've had some questions about that and I'm going to try to explain it, but I might even make like a little YouTube short about it as a tutorial. That might be kind of nice. So I'm just going to say that you have to lay down fence, remove the floor of the new room that you made, and then replace it with a fence that you want. I will go into more detail at a later time. But this ends up being the parents' bedroom, and I just love this bed from Cats and Dogs. It's one of my favorites, and I think these end tables too from Cats and Dogs, I barely use them, and I was really excited to use them throughout this entire build, just because I don't use them very much. And the room is very plainly decorated. There's a very strong kind of like salmon color, blue and green theme. And as per usual, I put a fair amount of plants in here as well. I feel like I always struggle with master bedrooms unless they're really, really big and I could add activities or like a computer or something. So I did put an armchair in the corner, and I think I end up using the little tiny stool here. Yeah, the one from Cats and Dogs, which goes so well, by the way, with cottage living. I put a little plant on top of it. There's a hanging plant, and that's pretty much it. It's really not too exciting, but I thought it was a very calm and cozy and welcoming bedroom. Like, I would feel very relaxed here to actually fall asleep and have a restful night's sleep. I do put a little faux hamper here, which if you do have laundry and you wanted to add that to this build, you could swap that out for a functioning hamper if you'd like. There's also some shoe clutter, and I did take some of these little boxes here and I put shoes on top of it, maybe as if one of the parents just bought these shoes and unpacked them and they haven't worn them yet, maybe for like a special occasion. Thought that was kind of a cute idea too. And then I just clutter up this dresser over here, the same one that I used downstairs in that back entryway. And then we end up moving on to the teens room and the kids room. So I was envisioning this for, I didn't even mention this in the beginning, a family of 4. I was thinking that there were 2 parents, a teenager, and a child sim. Now the teenagers who I gave a fair amount of thought to, but what kind of bums me out is I completely forgot to record the room for the teenager. Like, I don't know what happened. I completely blanked. I think it's because I did this over the course of like 6 days, but you can see off to the right-hand side, they have got a double bed. They're really into sports and art and guitar. Like, their interests just span so many different spaces and like genres, I suppose. I think they're a really fun sim. And then they also have a younger sibling here whose room I'm decorating now. I really, really don't like when I do that. It happens more than you think. If you think that content creators have it all together and that we never make mistakes and everything's perfect, that is far from the truth. Like, I completely forgot to record a room. Who does that? Who does that? I do. But the sibling here, the younger sibling, they have this really sweet little room. I kind of used almost a similar color scheme compared to the teenagers room, though I think the teens room is a little bit more purple. This one is kind of pink, and then there's some like light purples in there, but there's also that really nice teal color, and we have a lot of that color combination in game, so it makes it really easy to piece together, at least in my opinion. But there are also a lot of conflicting patterns, like in the curtains and the rug and kind of the, oh, what is that? What is it on the poster bed there, the 4-poster bed? I don't know. I'm going to call it like another curtain because I can't remember the name, but yeah, I mean, I think there are some conflicting patterns, but it looks really cute together. And now we're moving on to the backyard, and this is where I decided to use terrain tools to make a bit of a raised patio without needing a foundation. So I have said this before, I am not the one to go to for advice or guidance on how to use terrain tools. I swear, the only thing that I can really do is sink terrain in to make a pond. I can also raise terrain and then flatten it to a particular height, but the control in regards to like what areas you're raising and how it works with foundation and stuff, it's very difficult. And you're also going to see, because I couldn't resolve it and it drove me nuts, is when I placed the stairs here, it actually sunk the terrain down at the bottom of the stairs. So there's like this little dip. I tried to put some brickwork like I did in the front to make a pathway from the stairs, but it wouldn't work because it wasn't a flat terrain. I really don't know. It's very confusing to me, and I know you guys might have some advice, which is always welcome. I just let it be because I couldn't handle it. I also had to raise, or lower, I should say, the foundation of the build itself, because landscaping with terrain without something like the tool mod, can be very challenging. I was determined to not have to use the tool mod here, and I didn't. I ended up not using it at all. And I've said this before as well. I have a very love-hate relationship with the tool mod. Just me, like it's my preference. I struggle to use it sometimes, and there are other times where I very much enjoy it. I think I have a build at the time of me recording this. I don't know if it's going to go out before this one or after this one, but basically recently I completed a build where I did use the tool mod, and I feel like the scaling option is my favorite setting with the tool mod. That's what I'm thinking, because it allows you to size things up and shrink them down at intervals that you wouldn't be able to just with like the hotkeys and shortcuts and stuff. Anyway, we are working on this back patio. It is very open and flat. I didn't want there to be a roof. There's an outside dining area. I added the mailbox here quickly because I always forget about mailboxes. And then I added a few lounge chairs. I tried to play around with an outdoor seating area, but it was starting to look a little bit too modern for me. Things didn't seem evenly placed, and I really wanted it to look very collected out here. So I was trying to use these outdoor sofas, I think from Perfect Patio stuff. I can't remember. I also tried to put like a coffee table, maybe an outdoor rug, but it was starting to look a little bit odd to me. So I ended up doing these lounge chairs here. I added 2 of them, and then there's going to be a couple of gardening plots, a few more like plant decorations out here just to liven things up and make things a little bit more colorful. They've got a grill out here, and I think there's also going to be a bike somewhere leaning against a tree, which I thought was a really cute detail, but it was a bigger space than I was anticipating after I'd mapped it out. So I also added an outdoor trash can, and I used these plants. I think they're from Get Together. They are in these little like boxes. These right here, I shrunk them down 1 using the shift bracket key and then made a row of them because I thought it looked really, really nice out here. I only did it on that side, but then I stacked a few gardening like boxes, not boxes, the little gardening planter things. Why do I always lose words when I'm thinking of them? I always lose them. They're literally always at the tip of my tongue, and then I completely forget. But anyway, that's pretty much the back patio. I'm just kind of adding some terrain paint here to make things look a little bit more flushed. And then we move on to the rest of the backyard, which you can see is pretty big. There is a lot to work with here, and I really didn't know what to do, so I really just started with the landscaping to kind of flesh out a few separate areas. I find that using plants to separate spaces is sometimes nicer looking than using fence. I was going to use fence, but I decided to just pull out all the hedges, frame everything out, and then kind of see what I could work with. And we actually end up getting a decent size. I'm not going to say like a full size pool because it really doesn't look that big, but we were able to get a pool back here, which wasn't what I was planning, but I thought it was a great opportunity because not too many of my builds end up with pools just because I want a decent amount of space for them. So we end up kind of putting down some brickwork here, and then we add a pool, which I thought was just really nice to have. This is me struggling to get the brickwork down because of that little divot in the terrain. Didn't really work, so I don't think I end up making a path from the stairs, but I do make a path from the little opening from the front yard, if you're following. And then we're just going to kind of customize the pool a little bit. That's actually a decent sized pool. I kind of take it back. I think that's actually a really decent sized pool. There's going to be a floaty or 2 here because I love adding those details. Sometimes I even add them on the outside of the pool, like sitting next to the side, so your sim can like toss it in their inventory and then use it in the pool. It's kind of a nice little detail, I guess. There's also a few more gardening plots. There's that bike, a little tiny seating area. There is a clothesline. I always forget the word for that too, as well as the little tubs where your Sims can do laundry if they would like to. If you don't have that pack, it's not really a big deal in regards to that. Now, this is me also trying to figure out the little kids area because I wanted to make a playground basically for the kids, but I wanted to make a sandbox, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to add activities within the sandbox or just kind of leave it. Now, this is kind of embarrassing. But I came up with a little bit of a story. So I end up putting a toddler slide in this little sandbox, which you guys just watched me decorate the rooms. There's a teenager and a kid. There isn't a toddler here, and only toddlers can use this slide. But I was thinking that this family had been there since their kids were very young. So maybe this was for the teenager when the teenager was a toddler, and they just haven't really changed up any of that equipment. They've added a swing set and things like that, but they haven't just gotten rid of the toddler slide. So If you are playing with a family with a toddler, you could of course put a toddler bed somewhere, and then there will be some toddler things. But I had a few more details here, just some outside activities like monkey bars and things. And then that is going to be pretty much it for the build. So I hope you guys did enjoy this one. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Never ends. It's being more than friends, yeah. You know I'm here to stay every single day, yeah. So hold me tight through the night. Just us two, me and you. Oh, 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 I can't believe you love me. Oh, 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 I just feel so lucky. Oh, 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 still can't believe you love me. Falling into your arms, dancing up